Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Evening.
Go for one and okay. Great. All right. Before we begin, I would just like to remind people that if anyone does a chat, does put anything in the chat, it can be foiled later later. Shimon, yes, you're the one in charge today.
Sammy,
Sam.
you're in charge for a little while. I'll give you. He's laughing.
Now
Go
you have to
ahead.
hit unmute. There you go. And it's all yours, Sam. Wait.
You're
Sam.
muted.
You're still muted.
Unmute.
There
Got
you
it.
go.
Very
There you
sorry. All right. Thank you for coming to the meeting. Thank you for coming tonight. Let's start off with the agenda. The first item on the list is the presentation from the Brooklyn Comprehensive Plan. The presenters are here, or?
Yes, they're here. John, take it over.
Let's begin.
Okay.
Hey, great, thank you. My name is John Douglas. I'm Director of Land Use for the Brooklyn Borough President. I will be giving the presentation. Just want to thank you all, Stevie 13, for allowing us to present tonight. Okay, here we go. Can you all see that?
Yep.
Yep.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so Brooklyn Comprehensive Plan, Health and Housing. This is sort of the second phase of the project. We did existing conditions last year. We had a public town hall, which go over a little bit. But the focus is on health and housing, really, looking at the data from after COVID, we've seen a lot of disparities in health outcomes. And so we want to take a look at that and see if we can make some policy that helps to address it, and understanding we have a really challenging housing environment. Want to just big picture, what is a comprehensive plan? It can really be a lot of different things. It really just is defined by your community, and it's a sort of a comprehensive look and guidance for community stakeholders in order to utilize a variety of means to implement those goals. In this particular comprehensive plan, the borough president's really working to use data-driven process and community engagement to understand the needs of communities and help identify how he should be approaching projects that come across his desk where he needs to vote, and how he, communicates how he arrives at his decision making. And through this planning process, he wants to make sure that he's accountable and predictable in that land use decision-making process, so that you all know where he stands, and that there's accountability for him when he, as he makes those decisions. And then making sure all sort of stakeholders have access to some of the, a whole bunch of data that really can help inform a lot of public work, but also, private investment, nonprofit work. So hopefully just making sure that everyone is aware of all the data and issue areas in Brooklyn, they can, utilize their resources and direct their efforts to make the most impact. And so we just wanted to define what this project is not, because, it can be, like I said, a lot of things to a lot of different people. This is not a substitute for the citywide comprehensive planning efforts. Those are, ongoing. The borough president, clearly has a jurisdiction, in Kings County, but, there's citywide needs. We are part of a larger city. And, he's still looking for leadership from the department and from, to really take a leadership role around a citywide look at these issues. This is not a substitute for local planning efforts. So we know there's site-specific planning, small, community plans, post Sandy work that informs a lot of the decision making that you all are doing as you make decisions for the growth of your community. So it's not meant to substitute that. It's meant to sort of catalog those efforts, make sure that we are, everyone is aware of all the work that's already been done, and that, not recreating the wheel, making sure that we're, like I said, utilizing our investments the best way possible. And it's not done. This project is not complete. We are just really getting started in terms of community engagement. We wanted to come to the community boards first, just to outline sort of the framework, how we're thinking about these issues. And as you start to engage with the draft recommendations, which we hope you do, and help us make sure that your needs and sort of ideas for your future are sort of captured in that planning effort. And then finally, it's not a rezoning, so we're not planning on introducing any site rezonings. So that's not this plan. So the planning process sort of for this plan's purposes really focus around the borough president's powers and responsibilities. He takes his charter responsibilities very seriously, and wants to utilize all the levers of power he can do and use to sort of implement this plan's final recommendations. So some of those powers, you're all probably very aware of these already, but he can issue ULIP recommendations, sponsor legislation. He can budget. He has a budget he's already allocated significant funding for, modifying, monitoring delivery of city services, convening stakeholders around supporting the strategic growth of Brooklyn. So like I said, why focus on health and housing? I sort of alluded to it earlier. There's a map on the right shows life expectancy in Brooklyn. Basically the darker the color, the higher the concentration.
Is there anyone else not seeing the slides? Because I'm only seeing one slide on the screen.
Yeah, we only see one
I see
slide.
health and housing for
I
the
only
last
see
10
one
minutes.
slide too.
Okay, sorry, I thought I was losing it.
Yeah, it was like,
He's talking and I can't follow him.
I thought I was
I
losing it.
apologize.
But we only
There you go,
saw
yeah.
one slide.
See this?
oh, that's
But we
it.
didn't see the other ones. You got to
Go-
go
you gotta
back.
Oh, no.
You got to
That's
go
it.
back from the
Yeah.
beginning.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I didn't know you guys couldn't see that.
Yeah,
You only one page came. Now number 2's on now.
Okay, all right. Well, let me
What
go.
is comprehend your plan? You have to go all over because
yeah.
Oh,
while you
no.
was
Okay.
talking, the
Yeah,
slide
well, we
didn't
can
go.
read this, guys.
Yeah, I'll do it very quickly. So like I said, just this is a planning effort that's really just focused down around making sure all stakeholders work together to utilize a variety of different means and measures to implement its goals. This is a guidance for the borough president, and as he makes his decisions during ULIRP and other discretionary approvals he makes, that you all are aware and can hold him accountable for the decisions that he makes, and make sure that it's informed by data and that everyone has access to the same information that he's using as he's making decisions. This is not a citywide. Can you see this slide? This new slide? Good.
Yes, we can see
Okay,
it now.
perfect. Okay. Like I said, not a substitute for citywide efforts, which are ongoing, or local planning efforts that have already been going on in your community. We're just beginning the process now, and we're not proposing rezoning. So why the focus on health and housing? Like I said, the map on the right is a map of life expectancy compared to New York City's average, and you can see that the darker the color means the lower the life expectancy. So the darkest color, darkest purple, is 10 years less than the median life expectancy. So we see these when we did the existing conditions work, we sort of that report can be found on the borough president's website. It sort of goes through all the data demographics of the community and shows that we see a very close correlation between income and population by race. And so, we see these stark disparities come up over and over again in chronic health conditions related to, heart disease, diabetes, other issue areas, and life expectancy is sort of encapsulates all of those issues. Crime, all those things are sort of encapsulated in this data. And so, we sort of use this as a measure of sort of development of civilizations. The older you live, the more developed your civilization is. So we want to make sure that, you know, we have equity and that we improve the quality of life for folks that are living less, not as long as the others. And then we hope that adding some values around the future growth, you know, trying to improve our neighbor and our own public, you know, health, that we can find shared, you know, mutual interests and you know, coalescing on a future vision for the borough. And as we've worked with that previous planning effort was done with Regional Planning Association, so RPA, and then New York Academy of Medicine, which is like a nonprofit that does a lot of public health research. And they have sort of helped us look at the data from the lens of how our public physical spaces affect our public health, our life expectancy, and our other health outcomes. And there's a strong correlation between the location of affordable housing, availability, quality of affordable transit, and accessible public services and access to jobs and opportunities. Those things actually have a strong correlation related to public health outcomes. So like I said, the borough president initiated this plan as soon as he got in office last year. He established an advisory committee made up of about 20 or so nonprofit city agencies, other stakeholders in the borough. It's more of a sort of a citywide or a borough-wide scope. And then they kind of help form the sort of the backbone of the program. Then the borough president held a town hall in December on this existing conditions report that was put together. Like I said, you can find this one online. He had a online portal where folks that couldn't attend the town hall or engage with him personally could provide feedback online. We got a lot of great comments, and so if you did submit, we really appreciate it. Our team here is sort of crunching all that data and making some updates to that initial report that will be published this summer with the final report. So it all come out together, reflecting all the comments that we received last year for the existing conditions and this year as we move into draft recommendations. Also presented to the borough board and borough service cabinet, engaged with critical stakeholders. The borough president talked about this project everywhere he went. And Hester Street is now our newest partner on this project. They've been leading a lot of focus groups, target sort of organizations around, infrastructure, environmental justice, and public health. And they'll be sort of spearheading sort of the community engagement moving forward. They'll be helping us. They formed our digital platform for how we access to get feedback, and then they'll be helping doing sort of on the ground, try to get feedback from the public and organizing our upcoming town hall this May 18th, which I'll share with you later. Oops. Oh, okay. So these are just images from some of those efforts. So out of that planning effort or existing additions work that we did last year, we just came together and started crunching sort of data and wanted to come up with a framework for how we look at recommendations and the future land use for Brooklyn. And so basically these two parallel ways we're looking at sort of organizing the plan. One is typical organization of a comprehensive plan, which is basically having goals. Those are sort of the big picture ideas, objectives, which are sort of more targeted, issue areas, recommendations to sort of meet the goals or meet the objectives, and then metrics will help us measure success. So making sure that we understand how we're trying to measure success as we develop these recommendations. And then so in parallel, we're looking at spatially distributing those priorities where those recommendations would do the most good, basically. So in areas where there's high incidence of heart disease, that we focus on making sure that we have healthy foods, and then also making sure we have maybe local outpatient clinics related to heart health and things like that. So trying to make sure that we're making investments where we can make a big difference, especially with limited public funding. So that's kind of how the two work in parallel. These are the draft goals that we came together and sort of drafted. They're probably very familiar ideas to you, and hopefully don't shock the sentiments, but it's looking at reducing hazardous environmental conditions, including those that are affected by climate change and our most vulnerable populations, making sure we have access to affordable healthcare, housing, encourage an active lifestyle that encourages mass transit use, community investments around making sure that local nonprofits, CBOs are properly resourced to help address those health disparities, economic opportunities, and accessibility in terms of planning efforts all the way around. So this is just a framework. Just want to show you one example of how we're thinking about organizing the plan. And like I said, there's an online portal where you can comment on each goal, each objective, each recommendation, and each metric, and provide your feedback in terms of, I don't think this recommendation goes far enough, or I don't think this is the right thing to look at. I think you guys should look at this, this, and this. So this is just an example, but there's many more that you can also engage with online or at our town hall. So one is, like I said, reducing hazardous environmental conditions, including those that are exacerbated by climate change. So one objective from this goal is to protect our vulnerable populations from issues of high heat, which and the map on the right shows it's a heat vulnerability index, which basically means that there's a high concentration. The darker the color, the higher the concentration of populations that are more susceptible to heat stress on hot days. So older folks, very young children, people with asthma, other chronic health conditions that are exacerbated by heat. Though this is where they're mostly concentrated, the darker the color. And so, interventions like recommendations here that would be proposed are increasing open space, cooling centers, access to cooling centers, increasing tree cover, would be the most, the greatest good that can be done with those sort of interventions would be done in these kind of areas, because there is such a high concentration of folks that are affected by heat, green roofs, cool roofs, things like that. And then the metric here would be, making sure that we make some investments and reduce the heat island effect in those vulnerable communities. So that's one, like I said, example of the goal, how we look at it sort of as all the way through to how we evaluate success. On the other parallel is the spatial planning for Brooklyn. So we've sort of broken up Brooklyn into these sort of frameworks. They're overlapping and you'll see that, but they're just sort of like big picture ways to look at some major issues we think are affecting the borough. The 4 frameworks are looking at housing growth and parking demand management, health and wellness economy, healthy streets and environment, and resilient infrastructure and jobs. And so we'll go through each one and just talk through them a little bit in terms of land use frameworks. This is just, as a visualization of what I just said, which is that each goal's objectives may be achieved through one of these land use frameworks, or all 4, or just a mix of some of them. And so they're interchangeable in terms of, we don't think that there's a one-to-one correlation between these. They may have overlapping benefits or work towards the same objectives, and then vice versa. So the first one, we sort of looked at the data around housing growth and parking demand management. We want to look at fair housing and fair share as a sort of way we look at housing growth, not just in Brooklyn, but across the country, ideally. But here we see that there's been, on the map on the right, a significant concentration of new construction over the last 10 years. New building construction in North Brooklyn, also a significant population increase in downtown Brooklyn and North Brooklyn as well. And so those are very transit accessible areas of the city. Makes sense growth would happen there. There's less growth that's occurring sort of south of the park. And so they are sort of a natural way that we're looking at in terms of, we've sort of seen a lot of distributed growth in North Brooklyn subway. We want to make sure that South Brooklyn's density is concentrated around those transit lines. So we're looking at it from like a transit oriented development strategy. So we would look at higher density growth within a quarter mile of a transit stop, and then the further you move away, a half-mile radius, you're really talking about what core investments are we looking to do around schools, open space, sewer infrastructure, making sure that we're doing all that investment as we plan for growth. And then further from transit, half mile, there's certainly areas of Brooklyn where we don't think, significant housing growth makes sense, because it is so far from transit, where, more people will be relying on cars. And so in those areas beyond half a mile, it's really looking at more, they say, like, gentle growth, but it's looking at, working with architects, working with, local residents and their sort of how their neighborhood character looks today. If it's like a single family detached community, how do you, what is there an opportunity to add an accessory dwelling unit that doesn't necessarily detract from that neighborhood character, and sort of bringing those design professionals. Some districts are more like, attached to family and row house or something like that. Is there a way to get a third or a second unit and some of those developments that don't, take away from, that neighborhood character, but not really looking for, explosive growth outside of our transit areas. Parking demand management. So, of course, as growth occurs, we know people have cars, and we have limited on-street parking, and that's really not going to change much. We won't grow or substantially over time. So we have to find ways to get folks, encourage them to utilize public transit when possible. And the only way to do that is to make it convenient alternative to driving. And the best way we can encourage that is to concentrate most housing closer to our transit lines, because we know that the closer you are to transit, the less car trips you take and the less cars you own. So housing growth and demand management, parking demand management. These are NIMTIC, it's our sort of regional planning transportation organization. They identified these sort of strategies to think about how we can better utilize our on-street and off-street parking to reduce traffic congestion, basically, and to provide more opportunities for parking. Parking cash out is an idea that utilizing the federal subsidy around commuter parking for work, that people could be able to cash that money out, not take the parking space, and if they can, rather just utilize public transit, and then they could use the cash as they see fit, but not having to use it for the parking space itself. Wayfinding, looking at ways to better connect folks to understand what kind of off-street parking options are available, how much they cost, how much space is available in the parking lot. All those things, some of these apps have been working on it, but we want to make sure that it's legible to the public. So clear signage, things like that, go a long way to reducing the amount of trips people are taking around the block looking for parking. Looking at residential parking permits, we know the Senate was floating this idea during the budget negotiations. Clearly it did not get passed, but it sounds like other communities are expressing interest in this idea. But they have a lot of questions, and I think the program would be sort of it would have to be drafted from scratch, and so it could be pretty much anything. But it has been an idea that's been of interest to folks. Unbundling parking costs from housing. This is basically when you rent an apartment, that if they have parking, you can elect to pay for renting that parking space, but you don't necessarily have to. So folks are aware of how much their rent would go up if, or how much money they could save if they don't have a parking spot there. Looking at reducing parking minimums, and then overflow parking is probably the most important to CB13 in a lot of ways, and making sure that game day events, major events, there's major traffic congestion. I totally understand that, and there's been a lot of growth just right around the transit lines there already. But sort of a management of how we get better manage those sort of event day parking events. So health and housing, this is really focused on those areas where we saw those life expectancy disparities the most, and really focus on creating better health outcomes, reducing barriers to care. and stronger community service organizations. This is really, like I said, focus on life expectancy areas. And then we also see a significant amount of our healthcare and education workers sort of living outside of our existing transit network. And it's also where a lot of folks are driving the most. And so if we can look at expanding our transit options there, hopefully reduce some of those trips. This is like I said, so like I said, using this life expectancy map as sort of guiding principle of where we need to make some of our most would make the most effect in terms of investments around healthcare. And then our Healthy Streets framework is really focused on Vision Zero implementation in terms of making our streets safer. Clearly, we have a very disturbing uptick in fatal injuries in our roadways. And so looking at priority corridors where we already have capital investment that's going in, proposed capital investment, and making sure that those redesigns are efficient, make sense, reduce congestion and improve safety. And the red portions of this map are really focused, are the highest concentrations of air pollution. It's PM 2.5, which is the easiest way that we measure air quality and air pollution. And along the BQE and our industrial waterfront, you see the highest concentration of poor air quality. Unfortunately, air quality is not great across the borough, but it's particularly bad in these areas. And so this is a map of that same pollution map in terms of air pollution, but it also has the peaker plants, Superfund sites, and other toxic waste sites that are also mapped here with dots. And you can see that industrial areas, but also along the BQE, we're seeing higher concentrations of air pollution. And our EJ communities are the census tracts in environmental justice communities, areas where low-income residents and people of color are disproportionately facing those effects of air pollution right there along the BQE in particular and neighboring industrial areas. So the final framework is focused on sort of industrial job growth. We have an incredible industrial waterfront along Brooklyn, and it's strategically located for investments around wind energy. And so we want to look at supporting industrial growth, encouraging freight movements that are not trucks, so getting more barge by marine barge and by rail. And the proposed IBX line and the Cross Harbor tunnel are two options to get trucks off the road, but also encourage sort of potential for residential growth or more access to rail lines across South Brooklyn. And then we have our Resilient Waterfront with the Army Corps project, which I've spoken to a few of you about in terms of the challenges around implementing that. But understanding that we do have to have a harbor-wide strategy to protect the borough, and looking at the right interventions and the right timeline is all going to have to be done sort of with a local understanding. And the borough president wants to help lead and make sure that the Army Corps is understanding the realities on the ground, especially in Brooklyn. So with those in mind, we've been meeting. There's been a lot of organizations talking about the how New York's region is sort of we have a competitive advantage around wind energy because our shelf off Montauk is shallow, which allows us to build our wind turbines into the ground, into the seabed, which apparently is a cheaper way to do wind energy production. And so we have a really incredible opportunity to build our wind energy supply and bring, since we have that incredible industrial waterfront, to bring the entire supply chain around wind energy to our industrial job areas. Those are jobs that are usually lower education required, but higher incomes. And so we want to make sure that those jobs come to Brooklyn, and it's particularly marine freight based movements. The wind turbines have to be loaded onto boats and basically shipped from Brooklyn's waterfront out into, into outside of Montauk to build the wind turbines. So really supporting, like I said, the getting trucks off the road, more rail and water-based freight movement. And then, like I said, the Army Corps, once in a generation investment in terms of our resiliency from the federal government. And we know that there's going to be a lot of work that's going to be done, especially, Coney Island Creek, the gate that they're proposing there, is going to be an extreme engineering challenge. And, just getting it right for the community is going to be a huge challenge. So, but we know we have to get something done here, and we want to make sure we get it right. And just looking at like some of those wedged guidelines, more softer interventions, less reliance on seawalls where we can. So just wanted to highlight the IBX. I sort of talked around it, but it's a proposed state plan where they would work with a private freight rail operator that operates this blue line across districts like 7, 12, 14, over up to East New York and up into Queens. And it's just one of those projects that we think achieves a lot of overlapping goals. And like I said, that not one objective neatly fits into the other. They actually sort of satisfy multiple goals.
I mean,
how
much more longer is this presentation? Because we have a long agenda.
It's almost done.
Okay, thank you.
Encourage the active lifestyle. We see here the map on the right is vehicles miles traveled, and it's highly concentrated in areas without transit. And so we'll be introducing more options for folks to take transit, reduce car trips, improve air quality, and options for jobs. Encourage residential growth, create a redundancy around transit, and like I said, more freight movements. Like I said, we are at the basically town hall portion. We'd love to get your feedback. We'll have a digital survey that's online, and we'll plan on getting the final document out to you in the summer. So this is the link. I'll put it in the chat, and we have the date. Save the date, and hope to see you there.
Are you taking questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Any questions?
We have one right now. It's Christopher Gray.
Hi, John. It's good to see you again.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine. John, one thing I'm glad you are discussing this. One thing that a lot of people have been bringing up these questions up is that, we got to make clear that accessibility on any category, and doesn't matter, it could be A, from health, B, transportation, and C, all above, because these questions that you've been bringing up, and I know I've done it already with my other 2 hats I wear, the concern is safety is the #1 concern in anywhere in Brooklyn. If people want to travel or go anywhere, or say they want to go to an easy place for a hospital. Our borough president has mentioned hospitals, he mentioned seniors, but we got to remember the veterans and the people with disabilities. So we got to make sure that that, but he needs to remind himself that, because if you leave out the veterans and the disability community and some seniors, we got to make sure there are different open options that needs to come in. Other borough presidents have been brought this up, but the community I'm hearing from since I did mine, and I know for the last month, is safety concerns. Thank you.
Absolutely. I know that, just brief conversations with CB13, I was out there for the town hall that the BP worked on, and I heard that loud and clear, and putting that report together, so we should have all that feedback, but heard it loud and clear.
Anybody else, or?
Sam?
Hi.
Hi, yeah, I'm sorry.
You look familiar.
Yes, thank you. Marion Cleaver. I did your comprehensive survey, and it's wonderful. And it's something how are we going to fund all this? Can't hear you. Somebody, yeah.
That's a great question. The borough president has his budget, so he wants, like I said, to be accountable to his budget, and he made the sort of his dedication to the issues of really around maternal health. He invested significant capital investments in our public hospitals around that. But we want to create an opportunity for everyone with stakeholders, so not just the borough president, but the city, city budget, federal budget, state budgets, that folks can understand the challenges that we face, where the most impact can be made, and that they can feel good. They can feel like they make the right investment, the right time, energy, money investment in the right issues that help Brooklyn advance. So we see it sort of as a guide for folks to sort of jump in and be a partner to the borough, make sure that they, are, when they want to make an impact, that they know that they can know how. But certainly these challenges are bigger than our city budget. They clearly, just the Army Corps project itself, that's federal funding that, we want to secure, but we don't want them to, utilize it in a way that's going to harm our community. So I think we have to sort of be proactive, tell people what we want. And then as they come with projects, we be in a better posture to get a good result for our community.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Anybody else, or?
No, I don't see anyone hands raised.
Well, if nobody else, thank you for the presentation. Thank you for coming.
Yes, and I'll send a presentation, and we hope to see you on the 18th. Then please do fill out the form. We'd love to hear from everyone.
Yes, it's put in the chat. So if anyone's seen it, you can click on it and fill out during your time.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And next thing on the agenda is the 2940 and 3000 Ocean Parkway, Seacrest Towers. Anybody hear from them?
Yes, we have Vivian and Rachel, and who else we have here?
We also have Sergey Ryback and Aaron Polinsky.
Okay, I'm going to make you guys co-host so you guys can have fun with the screen.
Thank you.
And
Hi, everyone. And how much time you guys need?
We know you have a long agenda, so we can make this very quick, and we really thank you so much for allowing us the time to present to you. As I said, my name is Vivian Krieger. I'm from Coase and O'Connor. Here, as we just said, with Sergey Ryback and Aaron Polinsky from ownership, as well as my colleague Rachel Skal. We're here tonight to present our proposal for infill development at 2940 and 3000 Ocean Parkway. We're doing things a little bit different than we usually do. Typically, at the beginning of the process, we like to go and sit down with city planning. We, think about what we want to do, and then we like to come to the community board. Here, we really want to show you the site. We want to show you our very preliminary ideas, and we want to bring you into the discussion. We want you to think of yourselves as our partner here. We really value your input. We want to know what's important to you. And then we'll go to city planning. So this is really just the beginning of the process. And we really thank you for allowing us to come speak with you. So let's begin. All right, you go to the next slide. So this shows you on the zoning map where the site is located. It's within the Special Ocean Parkway Special District. Next slide. It's an interesting kind of shape development site. You can see the top portion is Neptune and Ocean Parkway, and then it's this kind of little skinny line, and then a nice big site on Ocean Parkway and Brighton. Next. This gives you an overview from Google. Next. So here you can see this is one of the things that we think is really exciting about this site is that there's no displacement. This isn't an area where we're knocking down a building. This is an area, there's a lot of open space here. We would really love to be able to put in a residential development here. We'd replace the parking in the building in a flood resilient parking spaces. There's a lot of paved area here. We think there's great opportunity to put in pervious treatment here, really green up the area, make it usable for the tenants. In thinking about the type of housing, I think it was very helpful to hear from the borough president's office. We want to hear from you what's important for you. So far, I think I'm hearing senior housing is important, veteran housing is important. So that's the kind of feedback and that we're looking for to be able to partner with you here. Next slide, please. This is the southern part of the site. Again, there's no displacement here. We'd put the parking back in. We'd be able to put in pervious treatment. And for this area, we're thinking, and this is where we also really want to hear from you and really want this to be part of the conversation, is we're thinking this could be a great place for some kind of a community center, maybe a theater, maybe something. There's a school right here, something maybe the school kids could use for part of the day. It could be a theater in the evening. There could be some other kind of community use. There's really a lot of opportunity to sort of explore what could go here. And this is why we want to start the conversation with you now before we even go and have an informational meeting with city planning. Next slide. This is just a very preliminary sketch of what could go in here. This was from the first part of the site where we could put in a residential building. We would look to, our preliminary idea here is something that would kind of match the scale of what's there, but really be sensitive to the existing buildings. Next slide, please. And then this is from the other angle. The building doesn't have to look anything like this, but we're just thinking something that could go in here. So I told you I'd keep it short and quick. I know it's a long evening. Just really wanted to put out our very preliminary ideas here and open it up and take questions and ideas. And thank you very much for letting me present.
One of the questions will be asked is, what are you zoning as of right? And what are you looking for? Which means what kind of zoning you have as of right today and what you're looking for.
Rachel, can you jump in on some of those details? I'll tell you that sorry to cut you off before you even speak. The zoning that we're looking for is still pretty open. It's a very interesting site because we've got that little space in between, but two very nice big areas there. So I think that in order to accomplish what we would want here, we would want some kind of special permits from city planning, which the significance of that is that would really lock us into what the plans become. So this isn't, sometimes with the rezoning, you just change the zoning, you could show something, but then you could do something different. Here, we would be working together throughout the process, and then what gets approved is what would have to be built. And then Rachel, if you want to jump in on some of the detail.
Sure. So right now, this is in an R6 zoning district within the Special Ocean Parkway District. The way these buildings were built, that would be about 2.4 FAR. I can tell you that there is no floor area left over right now to build anything new. So there would definitely be an upzoning involved here. We're kind of trying to back into the zoning solution, as Vivian was saying. So whatever form we end up with, we will find the zoning district to match, along with whatever other sort of relief we need. But with an upzoning will, of course, come mapping for mandatory inclusionary housing. So these would be, this would be a residential building that includes MIH.
So to be clear, as of now existent, you have no more rights to build.
Correct.
But you want to build extra. Okay. All right. Anybody have questions from the committee?
Okay.
Anybody?
Yes, we have 3 people on the list. We have Jeff, Pat, and then Yelena. Jeff.
Okay, good evening. I'd like to, I know this is very preliminary, but how many apartments are you planning on doing? And are you going to be planning on having any parking lots for those residents too? Because that's going to be an area, you know, you said you're going to have a community, you want to have a community center, so people need to get there, you know, via car, unless they use the trains, etc. Thank you.
Yes, we will, not only will we be putting in new parking for the new tenants and for the community use, but also replacing the existing parking that's there. So that would all go into the building, and we would be utilizing you know, the top of the line resiliency measures, dry flood proofing, et cetera.
So
Yep,
it will be a multi-level parking lot?
in all likelihood, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I think they asked how many units?
That's a good question. I think we did like a kind of back of the envelope calculation. Rachel, if you want to pull that up. Or if you just have it in front of you. So it could be just doing very rough calculations on what we're showing you. It would be approximately 560 units and approximately 270 parking spaces.
But what the units also important for them to know is studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, mixture.
Yeah, there's the mixture, you know, as I said, we're very, very preliminary. So that's part of what we want to hear from you. Some neighborhoods want larger unit, you know, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. Some people want more studios. So that's part of what we want to hear from you. There will be a good mix. It is, you know, we'll be introducing a nice amount of housing, but in terms of what type of housing and the type of unit mix, we would like that to hear from you so we can incorporate that into our thinking.
Okay, next we have Pat, Yelena, Lucy, and then Minnie, and then Michael.
I'm looking at site 1. It looks like a piece of toast coming out of a toaster. I just wonder how that's going to impact on the light and air of the adjacent buildings. How close, and will they affect their light and air?
I think that's a great question, and that's something that you know, we're thinking about. What we're showing now is a very preliminary image, and it is trying to take into account how the sun travels through the sky to really maximize the light and air for the existing tenants and for the new tenants. But that's part of the design process that we'll go through. It's very, very important to us.
Okay, next we have Yelena. I see you, Joy. Yelena.
Good evening, Elena Mackin. It's kind of coincidence to have this presentation after Borough President Office presentation, when open space were mentioned, spaces were mentioned, and parks and on and on. I perfectly understand that's company property, and they're trying to utilize this property. But my main question was answered, and I believe I already have issues with it. I wanted to ask if your URLAP will include mandatory inclusionary housing, and you said yes, meaning less parking. So I understand it's preliminary, but you should know very well that area is really crowded already. It's very good that you have community center in mind. That's what we really need in this community. But even talking about mandatory inclusionary housing on Ocean Parkway makes me wonder. Thank you.
We really appreciate that. And one of the things that I just heard you say was that with the mandatory inclusionary housing, that it's less parking, and that's correct. The requirement, it lowers what the parking requirement is. But if we understand, and it sounds like parking is very important here, that's something that we will take into consideration, and we will be able. We're not the parking that's required for MIH is the minimum parking. We can put in more parking.
We'll see. What do you mean by more, and what do we mean by enough? You know, it's a big difference between enough for community and more for you. Again, it's your property. You're allowed to have plans for your property, but I do appreciate you came to talk to us in advance, and I believe this conversation should continue. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have Lucy, Michael, and Minnie, and then Joanne.
I'll be quick. Thank you for mentioning the community center. That's something I echo with Yelena, that we need. At the moment, as I said, thank you. Affordable units, are there any in mind in this plan? And keep in mind that this is just, as you said, is just the beginning, and we obviously will continue our input after, but I was just curious if you had any intention of having affordable units.
Yes, I mean, not only is it required here, but it is something that's very important for the project. And as I said earlier, what I heard in the earlier part of the discussion, in the discussion with the borough president, which I thought was borough president's office, which I thought was very helpful. It sounds like senior housing, veteran housing, housing for the disabled. Sounds like those are important issues here, and that those are things that we want to hear more from you about, and that would be part of the affordable housing component of this project.
And I just want to say, I can't speak on what the units you want. I mean, we have studios. Again, I'm not an expert in this, but I don't believe that studios are a need in this community. Someone else can say to me they are, but we have a lot of growing families here. So for me, units of 2 bedrooms or more, or I would say with 1 bedrooms and more, would be, for me, in my eyes, is something we need, but maybe someone else might know that we need studios. So you asked for our input, and that's what I'm bringing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very, very helpful.
Okay, next we have is Michael, Minnie, Joanne, and then Jeff.
Hey, you guys didn't have this many questions for the borough
Yes.
president's office.
I saw one of the pictures that you had put up earlier. You talk about 560 dwelling units as an idea, and then you're talking about needing 220 spots for the 560 dwelling units, but that doesn't seem to take into consideration the existing spots that the building itself now, that footprint changes. There are several hundred spots already in that area that you need to consider what you're going to do with those, right? So if we, and I don't know the full amount of spaces that they have over at the 2 Trump buildings, but whether they be the Ocean Parkway buildings or Trump 3, okay, also shares that parking lot. So if you're looking at 220 spots for the 560, what about the additional 200 or 300 spots that you're now wiping out that already exist?
So that's my fault. It would be 270 new spots in addition to the existing.
So that you would be building in a garage.
Right. It would be in the building.
And considering all that we're reading right now about garages and parking spaces and things like that, that's an interesting subject in today's climate, right?
Yeah, we would absolutely make sure to utilize all of the cutting edge resiliency measures. There's a lot that you can do for flood proofing, for circulation, et cetera. So that's something we would be able to do here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, Minnie, Joanne, and then Jeff, and then Chris. Sanji, you're the last person, okay?
Yes, let's make Sanji the last and no more.
Okay.
Then we can move on because they are coming back to present again.
Yes.
And we have another item, guys. Thank you.
We will be back plenty. This
Yes.
is really just the beginning.
Thank you.
Okay, Minnie.
So my question is, breaking down rentals, co-ops, condos. How are you going to sell this? How many floors? And I'm actually very confused. I am looking out of my window. I can see those two buildings, and I don't understand exactly where you're going to put this new building.
Sure, we can, Rachel, if you want to pull up the Google shot, that would be great.
Is it going to be near the church?
So it would be in between these two buildings here. And this big open.
And that's on Ocean Parkway.
This
No.
is Neptune.
That's the
Pardon
church
me?
in the background. If you look straight,
This-
that's the church.
So this is the view from Neptune. Ocean Parkway is on the other side of this building here, and the church, you can't actually see it, but it's somewhere over here.
Yeah.
Actually, you can see it, sorry, it's right here.
Mhm.
So this is looking south from Neptune. This parking lot over here is where the residential building would be. And this is such a large site that in the massing diagram we showed you earlier, the two buildings are at minimum 60 feet apart at every point.
And that would be on Ocean Parkway.
No,
This is Neptune Avenue.
It would be on Neptune Avenue. I see.
yeah, may I, Minnie, if you look at the building on the left, that
Right.
is what is Shawcrest, and the building on the right is the back of one of the Trump 3 buildings.
Right. I'm in one of the Trump 3 buildings right now. So I'm just trying to get like some idea. So it would be on Neptune Avenue and Ocean Parkway. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. And it would be on the side of the street of the Trump buildings here? No, it would be on the other side.
Yeah, Rachel, do you have the mouse?
It would be on the Trump side.
It would be on the
Yes.
Trump side.
I can go back to
Okay.
the one, sorry.
So could you break down how you're going to be selling it? Are they going to be apartments? Are they going to be, I mean, are you going to make it rentals, co-ops, condos? How many stories will the building be?
So these will be rentals that the ownership would stay on and maintain. So this developer doesn't just develop it and then walk away. They stay on and they maintain these buildings. In terms of how many floors, that's really to be determined, but we're picturing something that would be in scale with the existing buildings.
So that would be about 23 floors, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, next.
Okay, thank you.
We
Thank you very
have Joanne.
I'm a bit confused. The 3000 Ocean Parkway, the parking lot, would that be built on?
Yes. Rachel, do you want to pull that up?
So you're definitely building on that parking lot.
Yeah.
Are you building over the existing parking lot? I mean, what's going to happen to the people that now park there while this is all going on?
So all of the parking will be replaced. And then in terms of during construction, which we would be many years away from, that's a plan that we would have to come up with, is what would happen with that parking during the construction. So that's something that we'll certainly start looking into. But all of the parking would be replaced. And then, we'd be looking to do some kind of a community center here. That's, something we want you guys to continue to give us feedback on. We want to continue that conversation. And then for a lot of the areas here that's paved, we would really like to make it pervious. We'd like to make it greener so that it's more usable.
Okay, so in other words, that lot wouldn't be a 20 some odd story building. That would-
Correct.
Close. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have Christopher. Jeff, you spoke already, so is there anything different?
It's Ida now.
Oh, okay, wait, all right, so let me just get Christopher first.
We're gonna have to end it with these guys. We can't continue.
Yeah.
We have to end it. These are the last three, and
Okay.
that's it. Whoever raises their hand, I'm bringing it down.
I promise we'll come back soon, and you kids can send us stuff too.
They're
All right,
coming
Christopher.
back, that's why. Thank you.
I'm gonna be easy and quick because since you're gonna be building near Ocean Parkway train station, I hope you will get a chance to do the tax routine because this will be a good opportunity if you're gonna build. Maybe you can work with the Ocean Parkway to make it get an elevator at that station.
Oh,
Because
that's a great idea. That's something we
yes,
can
I will
definitely. talk to the
suggest
EPA about.
if Eddie can give you that information, he can send you that, and that will be a good way of doing a tax credit. So therefore, everyone in that area can say, "Oh, we got an accessible station." Adding to that, so can we
Yeah.
please use that as an idea? Thank you.
That's a great idea. Thank you so
yeah,
much.
That's
No problem.
ZFA information. We'll get it for you. All right, Jeff, and then Sonji. Ida.
It's me. I understand this is preliminary. It's very difficult to make a judgment on what's been shown here. You talk about permeable surfaces and greening it up. Lawns and sporadic trees don't do much to help absorb groundwater. You need far more dense plantings, natural plantings, but we're far down the road. You know, you keep building here in a flood zone. Even if your buildings are resilient, this area is still going to be under mandatory evacuation. And there's not enough room now in the shelters for flood zones. The Army Corps of Engineers flood control plans are decades away, if they will ever come to fruition. And even if your buildings are quote unquote resilient and they'll have electricity, if the power goes out, they're going to be in the same mess with the rest of us, with streets that are impassable and no food and no access to anything. So I don't understand why we keep allowing more dense development in a flood zone. And the other thing is, you just mentioned the theater. A theater is going to attract a lot of people. You're just not going to need just parking for the people who are coming to your theater. Okay, but that's going to bring additional parking, additional traffic coming down Ocean Parkway, which is already pretty crazy on weekends and in the summer. So I question whether that's really a good use for this site.
Thank you. We hear you. And, you know, we take these issues very seriously. One of the things that I'd like to be able to do once we start speaking with city planning is to work with their resiliency group, their waterfront team. Actually, with my work with ULI, not with COSN, we are working on doing a study this week actually in this area to help single family homes become more resilient. So we're really fully aware of the importance and the significance here, and we hear you, and we are going to be working with city planning's waterfront and resiliency divisions, and you know, a big part of what we have to do here and what we will be doing here is looking at the traffic and really thinking about the best way to be able to do this, and getting all of this feedback is incredibly helpful, and we really appreciate it.
Great. All right, last one, Sanji. Sanji. All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
for
I
it.
had to unmute myself.
That's okay.
Hi, Eddie. Thank you, Vivian, for this presentation. I do like the idea of the community center. I think we definitely need that in the community for the youth. My question was about the residential portion. Have you guys considered like a mixed use type of situation at that area where it could be shared with retail spaces? We have a lot of, I'm sorry, someone said something.
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, so that's my question. Did you consider the building to be like a multi-mixed use building?
We hadn't so far, but you know, we're happy to think about that. Are you thinking of sort of like ground floor retail that would face onto Neptune?
Yes.
I mean, that's definitely something we're thinking about. Is that you know, what kind of uses are you thinking about? Or if you want to put some thought into that and get back to us, we're happy to continue that part of the conversation. But that's a good idea.
Yeah, we have a need for so many stores on Coney Island, and a fish market, a little boutique, maybe a little, steakhouse. There's just so many residential properties and we don't have enough retail and we have to travel so far to community just to shop.
That's a great idea. Thank you so much for sharing that.
And Sergey does that now, by the way, right? In all his new buildings, they all have, retail on the ground floor. So
You've got the right team for it.
That would be ideal. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, all right, thank you, everyone. All right, and we will be in touch, definitely with you guys. And Sam, where are you, Sam?
Okay. Okay, next agenda is a street co-naming.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
Thanks,
yeah,
guys.
thank you again. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
We'll be back soon.
I'm sure you will.
Thank
I'm
you.
very, very sure you're going to come back a lot of times.
Many times. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. All right. All right. Next thing is a street co-naming for Reverend Sylvester and Georgia McEddy. Anybody here for them? Anybody? McEddy. I'm sorry. I apologize. Thank you. Please.
Yes.
No, to tell us a little bit about the person, little story background.
Okay, my grandfather and my grandmother migrated here in Coney Island. It'll be 100 years, July 15. And they migrated to Coney Island. They lived here until they passed. And they loved Coney Island so much. When they came here, they had 8 children. And they had 2 more here in Coney Island Hospital. And my mother was the one of their children. Her name was Gwendolyn McEddy Mobley. And we went to the church on 25th Street. My grandfather was one of the associate pastors there. And he worked at Transit and he was active in the community, going to visiting the sick and the shut-in, giving communion, and my grandmother also. And we was always, my mother had 12 children. Each one of his children had 10 to 12 children. We all went to school here in Coney Island. And my grandfather put input in the children's lives around here through baseball. As you know, my nephew, he plays basketball, Stephon Marbury. One of my nephews just he was drafted for the Dodgers. But my grandfather was a minister in the community and his wife until they passed. And we was asking for the name, co-naming on 25th Street and Neptune Avenue in front of the church there. And I put in the application March 26th, and then I got feedback saying that the application was revised, but I submitted my application in March, and the revised one takes effect July 24th. And I'm asking for the for 25th Street and Neptune to be named after and honor my grandfather. And we're asking for July 15th because that will be the 100th anniversary that they migrated here to Coney Island. And we still have family members, 2 to 3 decade family members that still live in the community, myself, my children, my daughter's 53. And we've been here part of the community, the McEddy and the Marbury family. And I'm asking for that.
There's some background noise back there, or?
Yes, I was up. What happened is
it was you, huh?
No, what happened is I have to go on at 8 o'clock with my church, and it goes automatically on my phone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And so I'm asking for the name to be co-named after my grandfather and my grandmother.
Anybody has any questions, committee? Anybody has questions or comments?
Lucy.
Thank you, Letty, for asking me to unmute myself. Hi, Selena. How are you today?
Paying yourself?
You're muted there. Good.
I
So
unmute myself.
we did. Thank you. We did receive your application, and even though you submitted it a while back, the request, you were on point in getting everything. I just want to commend you. Everything that we required on the new guidelines. So I want to thank you for that, because I heard you mention that, you submitted a while back, and then you had we gave you the guidelines, but I want to commend you for doing that. So I thank you very much. But I guess my question is, and I should have read, and I probably read it, but I just have to remember, are we looking at 25th Street, or are we looking at the Neptune? Which way is the signage going?
25th Street.
Going
see the
towards
sign-
25th, not Neptune.
Yes, because the
Okay,
church
thank
is
you, ma'am.
on 25th Street. Well, the church is 25th Street in Neptune, but when you address the address, they say 25th Street. And we marched to that church. My grandfather helped build that church, and we marched there. I was, I think 9 years old, and I saw that church built. We had building funds. My grandfather, my grandmother used to cook dinners to sell, so we can take our money to help build that church. And then they burnt the mortgage. I saw that church built from scratch, from ground. And my grandfather
I
helped.
live on your block. I live on the block, so I know what you're talking about. I just was, I was 25th Street we're looking at. We're not looking to put the signage towards Neptune. We're looking towards 25th, correct?
Okay, yes, thank you.
I'm asking, ma'am.
Yes.
I'm not
on
telling you.
25th Street,
Okay.
25th Street. Mhm. But also when you, in the revised thing, I went, because a young lady in the office told me I had to get each paper notarized for the signature.
Yeah, we noticed that, Selena. We have it. Don't add extra. We don't, when you go to a courthouse, don't answer until you ask.
Okay. Okay.
All right, guys,
I
I'm
hear
done
you.
with my question. Thank you, Selena.
You're quite
Anyone
welcome.
else?
You're quite
Any other
welcome.
questions, or we got to vote on this, Eddie Mark, or?
Yes, of course we have to vote on this.
Okay. Does the council have an opinion? Anybody from the council? Anybody from anywhere, or?
No, I don't see nobody from the council.
We did get a letter from the councilman. He's requesting to place the co-naming. Am I correct? We got one from Harry's office.
Thank you.
And,
Yes,
we
we
have,
did.
Didn't we? I thought
Yes,
we
we
did.
did. We did. We
Thank
did.
you very
we did.
much, guys. Okay.
we have Yelena that raised her hand. Yelena?
Good evening again. I don't have a question. I have a little, two comments actually. First, I was very pleased to see this kind of application and all signatures collected. So when we vote for these guidelines, it's not hard to do it when people want to do it. Also, I noticed that family is asking for July 15, and I believe it should be discussed with the council member, because it depends when city council will vote on it. So just FYI, it does not depend on community board. It depends on when city council will vote on it. Usually it's in July, but we don't know date. So I would highly recommend to contact local councilman office to find out when vote is scheduled for you to get prepared on time. Thank you.
Well, we was asking for that date because that makes 100 year. And my nephew Stefan Marbury and my nephew Josue, who's gonna play for the Dodgers, that's the date that they are gonna release them to come to be part of the ceremony. And we're gonna
I understand, but
No,
you
I
gotta
was just-
speak to Ari. Yeah, you gotta speak to Ari Kagan.
Now, I understand, but I was just wanted to share with you why we picked that date. I
As
understand what you said.
was saying, that we don't pick the dates. We just vote yay or nay.
Okay.
Then we send it to the council. Then the council sends it to the city council, and then they vote on it, and then they tell you when they're gonna do the co-naming. So
Okay.
hopefully it will be the day you pick. If it's done beforehand, that it's approved. If all the approvals go, the way you want it, and it's approved by July 7th, then like Elena said, you'll speak to the councilman and say, can we do it that day? But the date cannot be picked.
Yes, okay, thank you.
All right. If any other questions, comments, anybody has a motion?
Okay, anyone want to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Okay, all right, we have Yelena and was that Michael?
I second it.
Okay, so Yelena's first and Michael second. All right, Lucia?
Yeah. Marion Cleaver,
Yes.
Shimon Rakowski,
Yes.
Elena Magnin.
Yes.
I don't see you on camera, Elena.
Yeah, show on camera.
Okay, hold on a second. Yes.
Ah, now I see a pretty face. Michael
Okay.
Russo. Jeffrey Sanoff,
Yes.
Michael Silverman.
Yes, Michael?
Oh, I don't see Michael. Oh, I did see you. Okay. Pat Singer,
Yes.
Jack Subin.
Yes.
Okay. Gloria Watkins,
Yes.
Joanne Weiss,
Hold on.
Joanne, I know I saw you.
Yes. Okay, you got it?
Yep.
Yeah, I
yeah.
got you. Lucy Mojica Diaz,
Abstaining.
Hey.
Okay, well, looks like pretty much looks like it's gonna be a yes. But looks like
I'm sorry, Eddie.
congratulations. Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, Eddie. I didn't get a chance to vote.
Oh, no, these are the ones that are existing members. We have not put the committees together. Come Wednesday, when you meet, you can select the locations of the committees that you want to be put on. Okay, and we'll figure it out at that meeting. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So again, congratulations. You got, pretty much looks like yes. Any old business, new business? Okay, if not,
Wait,
then again.
wait.
Oh, no. Yeah, yes,
Lucy,
yes.
raise your hand.
Hi, Lucy.
I don't know if it's old or new, but I was just sitting here and I was curious. And I should have asked this 3 years ago. Why is co-naming under land use and not transportation? Anyone know?
As far as I know, it was always under land use.
Selena, you're good, baby. You can go to your mass. We're good. They voted in. We'll vote at the board meeting. You go to your service. You're muted, ma'am.
I said, I just want to ask this question. How can I be a part of coming into the community board and help out wherever I can? Where do I go to do that?
I'll call you tomorrow.
Okay, because my family appointed, they voted for me to come to be more part of the community.
I'll get your number from Lucia and I'll call you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate everybody. And I thank you for all the yes, and be blessed.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, Lucy.
Any of the, I don't know if I'll say the wrong word. Any of the old timers can tell me why is it? Because I'm old too. I didn't mean to say it that way.
Marion, do you remember?
Oh, thank you for the old timers. Do I remember why?
Did I say that? I'm sorry. I'm getting old too, older, but
Yeah, but I'm a lot older.
Thank you.
But I remember, and Pat is also an old timer. Yes, right?
Yeah.
All right, for a long time, there wasn't any co-naming, am I correct? And then it started, I think one of the first ones was Marsha Rappaport
Yeah.
on I think it's Surf and West Fifth. I could be
Yes,
wrong.
where it is. And Harry Schwartz.
And Harry Schwartz. And then
Wesson.
no, and then the guy who used to run parks.
Julie Spiegel.
No.
No, Henry Stern.
Anyway,
No.
but it just seemed to morph its way into it. And to put it in transportation, is it going to do anything to adversely affect the streets or anything? It's a sign on a corner.
Marion, do you mean Sidney Jonas?
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
But that's not even a real street. That's a like a path in Wabash.
That was the bench.
The band shell.
Yeah. No. We named the band shell after him, but there's also
Yeah, but I was just curious. I understand what you're saying, that is not a transportation per se issue.
I don't think so.
but it's still the signs are still created by DOT. So that's why I should have asked this 3 years ago, but I'm
You know what, Lucy?
I see land use as zoning issues, ULIP issues, etc. in that category. Michael
Yeah,
Silver,
but you
you're
know
looking at
what?
me like I'm crazy, but
Okay,
unless
Lucy,
you're
We
tired,
need to be for
I'm
the
just
full board,
confused.
everybody be involved. I think it's a
Huh?
movement.
I'm sorry, Pat.
some
Huh?
things are just, we leave the way it is.
Yes.
Well, maybe not.
Wait a minute. If we just, you're gonna have to revise your whole bylaws. You realize that, number one. Number
My
two.
bylaws are getting revisited.
Wait a
Okay.
minute. Why can't the land use committee deal with something that's, for lack of a better word, easier, nicer? Dealing with ULURPs, dealing with zoning is hard work. This
Yes.
is something you can go to the corner, you can look at it. You're doing something nice for a portion of the community. You're
Absolutely.
doing something, you're remembering some of the people that were part of this community and made a huge impact.
You just said 30 seconds ago, regardless what committee it goes to, is not going to change the fact of what we're trying to do here. But now you're trying to justify why it's on the land use.
Yeah,
Done.
I think. it
Michael,
gives
Michael,
something
go ahead.
nice.
You have something to say. Silverman, you have nothing to say. Okay, so I'm gonna go back
Just
to
what are
you.
you, what are
Keep
you
it that
hoping
way.
to, what are you hoping, what do
Me?
you hope?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Let him get the words out. I want to know what he says.
Oh, boy.
What are you hoping to achieve by
The family
changing?
happy, now you're going before the full.
Thank you, Pat.
Yeah. Let's leave it as it
My
is.
Can you guys let me get a word out? Michael's trying to talk to me as well. All I asked was a simple question as to why. Michael, sorry.
Nah, don't worry about it. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Pat, then. Oh, I don't know. She said something about the board meeting. I'm not sure what she was referring to.
I'm saying that you made a vote, you made the family happy. Now you're gonna go before the full board, everybody's gonna have their say, and I think let's move it forward. That's all.
But that has
Why-
nothing to do with, I'm
What
not
was
talking
the
about the
question?
application that just was presented. I asked a question as to why co-namings are under land use and not transportation. Nothing to do with the application that was in front of
Fine,
us.
going on the street, on a corner, on a curb,
Yes.
sidewalk.
Yeah. Thank you.
Doesn't affect
Right,
parking. Transportation makes all the signs. All right? Transportation is in charge of when they have the Macy's parade, the Thanksgiving Day parade. Transportation staff is up all night, putting the lines in, making sure that Eddie's smiling. Eddie,
Yes, I know.
all right? Is the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade a DOT thing
Event?
because they're
No.
painting the sidewalk? I'm sure they get other people that paint the.
Okay, may I have Michael Silverman say what he had to say so I could understand this, other people's point? Michael, please.
I'm just trying to figure out what you are hoping to accomplish by changing the committee after all these years. That's all.
I wasn't looking to change anything. I was questioning that transportation in my head went with the street signs. And in my head, land use was ULURP, buildings, zoning. And all I questioned before everyone decided to say to me, let's leave things like 1930, was why was it there and not here? That was all I asked. So now people kind of explained it to me.
No, you see this book? Is it focused?
No, I don't want to see this book.
This is the community planning book that Harry Schwartz gave me.
Oh,
It is
God.
the first book under Lindsay. I will go through it and see if they mention co-namings, okay?
Okay, thank you. I'm done with my new old business.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wait, Barbara had her hand raised.
The only thing that to further complicate it, it goes to the city council under the Parks and Recreation Committee. Now figure that out.
Yeah, that's true.
So you want to, I mean, so there is no rhyme or reason to what the city does.
Thank you, Barbara. I mean, I don't wanna, what do you call the word?
Ruffle the
There
feathers.
was a board member that called me today and said that they're still fairly new and they don't like asking questions because they feel that if they ask questions, they get attacked. And I just got attacked a little bit because I asked a question, and I encouraged that gentleman. He's not here tonight. And I told him, you speak up for everything. And if it has to take 10 minutes for something to be explained to you, that's how you learn.
Absolutely.
So I thank you all.
Okay.
Quick question, Lucy.
think-
I'm sorry. Lucy,
Okay.
I couldn't raise the hand. Just quick question. What is it traditionally on other community boards where this particular function belongs to? Could you find out what's a common use, what common committees?
Some
I can only speak
communities,
for one board.
some
I can only
community
speak-
boards, when I read about guidelines and street co-naming, some community boards have separate committee, like ad hoc, like we have street closing, they have a separate committee. But, I mean, nothing gonna change. I'm part of it for many years, like everybody else. Nothing gonna change.
Well, maybe
Okay.
things need to change. That's all I'm saying.
Lucy,
Things sometimes have to change, So I'm gonna leave it alone. I thank you all. I think what Barbara mentioned makes a little bit of difference in my head now because of the city council, et cetera. But I thank you all. I don't
So,
want to discourage anyone from asking questions. Please do not discourage people.
okay,
Thank
Sam,
Any other questions, comments? If not, we're
Good
gonna
night.
call it night.
good night, guys.
Jack and I,
Good
Jack and
night.
I said.
Good night.
meeting adjourned.
Thank you for coming.
Was for Paul Podheiser.
Good night.
Yes, good
Was
night.
for Paul Podheiser.
Yes.
There's only a half a bottle tonight. Good night.
Oh, TMI.
Oh, happy Mother's Day.
Yes, happy Mother's Day.
yes.
Yes,
Night.
Did Sam stick around a minute or he's already gone?
love
Oh,
and
he's gone.
peace.
He left.
Happy
Sorry.
Mother's Day to all.
All right, good night, guys.
Yes. Eddie, tell your wife happy Mother's Day.